Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look to see if we can build a fully functional gaming PC which gives relatively good performance for the price of an AM5 motherboard. Obviously, of course you can. AM5 motherboards are ridiculously expensive at the moment. But anyway, here's the £500 PC build. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at building a budget-busting PC for around about the £500 mark. Now clearly, this is actually going to be recorded towards the tail end of September 2022, so depending when you're watching this, to be honest with you, the way that finances are going at the moment, I'm expecting the prices to be out of date by the time I've hit record at the end to stop the recording, so yeah, don't bust my balls too much if the prices are completely wrong. I will be putting a link to PC Part Picker to my custom list, which I've created so you can see all the prices and all the breakdown, but don't worry, we're going to go through that now. Again, obviously, if prices are extremely different by the time you actually watch this video, I apologise in advance. Things are very much in turmoil at the moment. Anyway, with that said, can we actually build a relatively decent performing gaming PC for around about £500 at the tail end of 2022? Yes, we can. Definitely can, and to prove it, I'm going to introduce the parts to you now. We're going to go through, do the full build, and then we'll do some benchmarks and testing at the end. Then we'll come back with my final thoughts and my recommendations going forward. So starting off with the parts, let's start actually from this side. So when it comes to actually cooling the PC, we're going to go very simplistic with this. We are going to go with an AIO, but it's a relatively cost-effective one and kind of performs the similar way to a lot of the high-quality tower coolers, that sort of thing at the moment. So we're actually going to have a splash of water cooling in this using Gamemax's Ice Chill 120 ARGB, so that's going to add a little bit of bling as well, which is really nice. Motherboard wise, we're going with the Asrock, the B450M Steel Legend. I actually managed to pick this up at a relatively good price at Amazon on their warehouse section, which I always suggest you check out, and also for that matter, places in the UK such as CCL, their clearance section is always generally quite excellent, so worth checking out. I picked this board up for somewhere in the region of about £70, which is about £20 less than what it was when it came out originally. Sort of £100 mark when it came out, so a little bit of a saving, although motherboards at the moment are not particularly good investments because they are quite dear for what they are, and also we've got all the changing technology, AM5, Intel coming out with their 12th and 13th gen processors, etc. So you would expect these to be a little bit cheaper, but because of the way the world is at the moment, they basically aren't. But this, I feel, was a very good option and has a lot of really cool features. Talking of the cooler as well, the cooler price is again, like I said, in the video description and the links as well. This at the moment you can pick up for some of the reason about £45, which kind of equates to a relatively good dual tower air cooler. So yeah, works well for me and takes up a lot less space and arguably looks a little bit nicer when it comes to going in a build. Processor wise, we've gone with something slightly more old school. So this is a Ryzen 5 3600. So we've got 6 cores, 12 threads, reasonably decent turbo boost up to 4.2 gigahertz. You can of course overclock these should you wish to, but generally it's an all-round decent performer, and I would certainly advise getting a 6 core or more processor in 2022, 2023, as more and more games and applications are being written with multi-threading and multi-cores in mind. This was actually a relatively good investment at £95 here in the UK from Facebook Marketplace. If you wanted a brand new one as an OEM chip, you can pick them up for some of the reason about £135. Of course, there's also the contender, the Ryzen 5 5600, which is a step up again, but then really you want to have slightly faster RAM and possibly a slightly newer motherboard to take advantage of those features, and that's going to cost you some in the region of about 160 to 170, again, depending where you're shopping. But we're trying to keep the price down low, so we've gone with this for £95. In terms of storage, we've gone for actually quite a nice little drive. This is the Kioxia G2. This is the 1TB NVMe drive. This is PCI Express Gen 3 x 4, so absolutely perfect for the Turbo M.2 slot on our Asrock motherboard. 1TB is pretty much what I would suggest now. If you're building a PC, 512, yes, you can get away with it, and you may want to add some spinning rust to that to fill in some games, etc. A lot of games now are getting towards the 100GB size, and it just all mounts up. When you include Windows installation of being somewhere in the region between sort of 20 and 60 gigabytes, depending on how bloated you have yours, then yeah, a 512 drive soon fills up. So 1TB for the extra cost, I think, is a very good investment. When it comes to RAM, really, I would say Corsair's LPX DDR4 3200 16 gig kit is ideal. I actually managed to pick some Viper RAM off of one of the viewers of the channel, Dave Aitken, who's actually lives quite local as well, so it was very handy. Picked these up for summer, and the reason I think it was about £40, maybe £45. RAM price has been all over the place recently, especially the last previous months where it has gone up a little bit, but now with DDR5 coming out, a lot of places are actually trying to clear DDR4, so you may pick up a bargain. Again, depending when you're watching this, prices may be completely different, so yeah, don't blame me too much. Graphics card wise is going to be a bone of contention. Now, graphics card wise in this particular instance, I've actually gone with something very simplistic. So this is MSI's GTX 1650 4GB. This isn't the super version, just the regular vanilla 1650. It's actually a half decent card, gets respectable frame rates, and actually does compete with some of the other lower end cards on the market at the moment. I managed to pick this one up for summer, and the reason I think it's about £100. I'm not entirely sure, that's what I put in our list anyway. Realistically, if you can pick up a used graphics card, maybe an RX 580, something along those lines, and if you want to stretch the budget, you might even find yourself picking up something like a RTX 2060 if you're really lucky. Again, depending when you're watching this, prices may be completely out of the window in terms of that. So yeah, don't complain too much. But I think £100 for a GTX 1650 is a pretty decent deal. This was, again, a used bargain. I picked this up off Facebook Marketplace. And yeah, it doesn't need any extra power, doesn't need a great deal of energy, cooling, etc. So it's going to be a nice little system. And also, something else that we do have to bear in mind is actually power usage. Now, depending where you live in the world, electricity prices, or energy prices in general, are starting to spiral out of control. So if we can actually get a system together using minimal wattage, then yeah, all the better. And because of that, we don't need an excessive power supply. So we've gone with the EVGA. This is their 600 watt W1 power supply, 80 plus rated, 600 watts, absolutely fine. And it's actually quite nice to see EVGA still in the market doing something if it's not graphics cards. I should also mention the price of the power supply. This costs somewhere in the region of about £39, I think it was, here in the UK. They're often on offer. I think I picked it up actually previous to that when it was somewhere around 25 or maybe even 20. Look out for things like Amazon deals. There's going to be Amazon Day again this year, mid-October, so this video might come out in time for that. So again, something else to bear in mind. And of course, we've got things like Black Friday and other sales going on. So do expect to see power supplies being reduced quite heavily, especially now we're going into the new ATX 3.0 and PCI Express Gen 5 era. Now, something else which we've obviously got, which you can't see on the desk at the moment, is the case we're putting in. So we're actually going to be putting all of this into the Gamemax Commando. This is actually a really cool little case. It comes in very, very inexpensive at the moment. CCL in the UK seem to generally be the cheapest for this, although you can get it on Amazon, etc. This is actually costing around about £35 for this cool little micro ATX box. So yeah, that's going to round things off, and I think it's probably about time we started building the darn thing. So let's get on with it. Okay, so there you go, the build is all done and completed, and I've got to say actually, I think it looks very, very nice indeed. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. This has worked out really well, considering it is a kind of £500-ish build. Now clearly, we have gone through, some of the parts are used, second-hand bargains, warehouse bargains, that sort of stuff. We've done some sensible shopping here, so realistically, if you were to buy all the items in here at full retail price, you're probably going to be paying an extra £100 on it at least, I would think. Some of the parts you probably wouldn't want to buy brand new in their current state anyway. Ryzen 5 3600, you realistically wouldn't buy a brand new one of those. You'd spend the extra £10–15 and buy 5600. So yeah, there are going to be some changes you can make. Like I said earlier in the video, if you do want to make changes, there will be a link to the PC part picker list in the video description. So you can go in there and have a play with it, tweak it to your own likings, and if there's something that you feel you can build for yourselves, then certainly you can do. And again, there'll be links also for all the other bits and pieces. I should as well say massive thanks to Gamemax. They've been really kind and sent us out tons of stuff in the past, and this case and the cooler have actually come together very, very nicely indeed, in my personal opinion. Very easy to build with, and it looks very, very smart with all the lighting in there. I think it just, yeah, it looks more expensive than it actually is. And talking of expensive, I have got my list in here, so we did spend kind of £510 roughly. That is including a Windows 11 professional license from premiumcdkeys.com. Again, that'll be linked in the video description. That's only a £5 or so. Exchange rates are changing, so that may differ slightly, but about £5 for a Windows license, which yeah, is great. You can't really go too far wrong, and especially when it comes to gaming. I was actually very surprised. You've gone through some of our usual esports titles on this. Obviously, AAA games is going to play at lower resolutions. One of the most surprising one actually was Wreckfest. Wreckfest did really well. Even with the 1080p high settings, it looks really good, plays really good. Average in frame rates kind of nudging towards triple figures, which is absolutely fine. It's a £100 graphics card. In these days, £100 can barely buy you £120. So yeah, things are really crazy out there at the moment. So to get a PC which can play your games quite happily and actually do it relatively quietly and not draw a ton of power either. The graphics card is literally sipping power. It's kind of 75 watts from the slot itself. The processor itself, maximum I think it was drawing was about 83 watts under full load of all cores. So this is really sipping power. The thing which isn't that economical is going to be the power supply. It's only a white rated one, so there are some cost savings potentially you can make there by upgrading it to a bronze or a gold, etc. But it's going to be kind of minuscule for what you're going to pay extra. But overall, I think it's worked out very nicely. The colours all worked very well, the blacked out theme, and actually the negative airflow surprisingly works very well. In terms of temperatures, the lowest we've seen recorded on here was somewhere in the region of about 33, 32 degrees Celsius. That is with the pump a little bit lower than what I would normally have set it. Normally I set pumps to 100, but I've put it on a more gradual curve. And also when it comes to the fans, I've set them up, again, rather slow just to keep the noise down. And effectively, the system is pretty much silent. The only thing which is bugging me slightly is the graphics card. Sadly, it doesn't have a 0 dB fan thing going on, so it's little horrible fans which do have a very distinct noise to them. And if I actually hold the fan still on the graphics card, the rest of the system is effectively silent. So yeah, it's worked out very well. Let's take a look at some gameplay. So we've played some various games, like I said, so let's have a look at Wreckfest first of all, which plays very well, very smooth, very slick. This is one of the online tournaments, so this is kind of real gameplay, and yeah, very smooth, very slick. No massive drop frames I can tell, at least not that I can see, due to the recording on the HD60S, which is kind of on its last legs. You may see the odd frame skip. Trust me, that is down to the capture card rather than the actual computer itself. The computer playing it, very smooth, very slick, and worked very well. And again, we're getting sort of a triple figure digits there. Very playable indeed, especially in this very kind of very unusual map. Lots of things going on. So that is a traditional driving game. Something a bit more esportsy. So let's take a look at Rocket League. Rocket League again played very, very fluid. Again, triple figures. We're not unsurprisingly very high frame rates. So if you want to, you can max out resolution a little bit more, maybe 1440p, probably even 4K to be honest with you on this, but obviously expect to have a significant drop in frame rates, but you should still get 60 frames per second at 4K even on this graphics card in Rocket League. So potentially that might be something that you might be interested in. I don't know, let me know in the comments section below. But overall 1080p, pretty much everything else maxed out, motion blur turned off obviously because I'm not an animal. But yeah, runs very well and getting 300 plus frames per second at times, around about the 270s, dipping down to 200s now and then. But very smooth, very fluid, and we lost. Next up, a little bit of CSGO. Again, yep, same sort of thing here. 300 frames per second, very easily attained on this, depending where you are on the map. You do get some dips and spikes here and there, but overall way over 60 frames per second, 1080p gaming, everything pretty much maxed out, so it's going to be very enjoyable. And if you like your twitchy FPS shooters, then yeah, CSGO on this particular system is going to be an absolute breeze. Something a little bit more cute, I suppose. A little bit of Fall Guy. I'm absolutely useless at this, but it does look quite pretty, and it's a little bit of fun bouncing around and having literally no idea what I'm doing whatsoever. But yeah, looks very nice. Frame rate is still excellent. Again, easy 100 frames per second at points, sometimes less, sometimes more, but way over 60 frames per second pretty much constantly all the time, so that is great. And it looks nice, and it's a free game anyway, so it's nice to add it into the list. Looking at some synthetics, so let's take a look at Unigine Heaven. Again, it's a very old test, and it's a relatively modest system, so round about this level is exactly what you'd expect to see from this sort of graphics card. And again, the minimum lows are what you'd expect, the highs are what you expect, temperatures are exactly on the nail. So again, the case isn't causing any issues or obstructions for the graphics card, and it is getting plenty of fresh air into it, keeping itself cool and just doing its thing, plodding along nicely. Other synthetics, we've got Cinebench, and actually weirdly, I've been doing some testing recently. I've got 3 of these processors, a very old one, a relatively new one, and one I literally bought a day or 2 ago. And I've been testing them all to see how they fare, the differences between the exact same chips. And yeah, actually some interesting viewing there, so keep subscribed for that and you'll see how that comes out. This one in here is actually the best of the 3 which I have. So there are 3 chips, 1, 2 and 3, and this is number 3, as you've probably seen earlier from the B-roll when we were building it. This one actually scored really well in Cinebench. I think this scored 9,453 from memory. I don't actually have it written down anywhere, so that is a complete guess. If I'm wrong, I do apologise. But yeah, I think the other chips are all kind of slightly lower than that, and one was considerably lower than that. So yeah, this is the better of the chips. Seems to run very well though. Like I said, lowest temperatures in the region of about 32, 33 degrees Celsius on this air cooler with no other real cooling other than this very basic 120mm fan at the top there. Highest temperature recorded, I think, was around 71.5, possibly, maybe 71. Half a degree either way, it's not going to make much difference, but around about 70 degrees on full load with a single fan and just an AIO, I think, is yeah, testament that this case actually does breathe quite well. And don't be concerned, I did test with the glass side panel on, but for filming purposes, that is a reflector pouring in calf that hates it when I do that, so we've left it off for this particular thing. And actually, noise-wise, the noise isn't too bad. Like I said before, I may consider trying to do something with the fans on the graphics card, potentially add another fan in the top there just to give a little bit more exhaust airflow at the top there, although realistically it isn't needed, but it might balance out the look a little bit anyway, but we'll see how things go. So overall, very happy. For the price of a potentially a X670E motherboard, a kind of mid-range one, they're around about £500–600 at the moment. You can buy one of those and then save up or sell a kidney to buy yourself a processor, a power supply, some DDR5 RAM, and then probably a 3090, 4090, whatever you want to get. You can spend thousands of pounds if you want to, but this is what I'm trying to say, is you don't necessarily need to. You can spend around about £500 these days and actually still get yourself a nice little PC with actually a little bit of a future in front of it. We can still upgrade, put some 5000 series processors in here, graphics cards, not so much because we're limited to PCI Express Gen 3, but certainly you can get some half decent cards in there, stick in something like a 1080, even a 2070 would be absolutely fine in there, no real issues, and you could probably do it on the same power supply as well, so it's not going to cost you a fortune when you do want to upgrade it. Plenty of storage, nice and nippy as well with that PCI Express NVMe drive, 1TB. So yeah, overall, very pleased indeed, and hopefully this PC will be winging its way onto some lucky person who picks it up off Facebook Marketplace, because this is going to go, and I think whoever gets it is going to be very, very pleased indeed. Anyway, that's enough for now. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. What else would you do for 500 quid these days? Maybe a console? I don't know. Anyway, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.